you're like me, then you might have a problem. A problem with storing stuff, possibly around your yard, in what I like to call junk piles. And this can start taking over a yard because there's many things that you feel like you're gonna have a purpose for, you just don't know yet. You gotta hold on to it because you never know when you're gonna need it again. But today, we're gonna find a solution to this problem. Instead of having junk piles all throughout the yard, it's time to start getting organized and it's starting to find a solution to this. And how we're gonna do that is by building us a brand new shed that was just sent us today by Patio Well. And I think that you guys will like it just as much as we will. The first thing we need to do before we can start constructing this shed is we need to get a base down and a foundation for the shed. And I learned that digging is truly hard work. Making this 11 by 11 square so that we can fit the shed inside it. It took a lot of work. Me and Chelsea were both out. We'd spent about an hour one night and then still had to come back the next day to do more digging, probably for about another hour before we finally just got all the grass really removed. I think that's the hardest part. It took a couple days. All the grass is removed, so now we gotta get to do some leveling. Now all the grass being removed, the next thing we have to do is get down and dirty and start trying to level out the surface the best that you can. You are not probably gonna make it 100% level everywhere, but you wanna make sure it's as level as you can possibly get. The more level it is, the better it'll be in the long term. So we wanted to make sure we took our time and got it all settled. After leveling it out, get a couple 4x4s. We're gonna make a box to go all the way around. Then we're gonna put weed barriers down. Weed barriers are important, number one, to make sure that no weeds are gonna end up growing through. But number two, the weed barrier is actually gonna help us for our next step when we put our gravel in, so that the gravel isn't working its way into the ground, but instead the weed barrier kind of keeps all that gravel up where it's supposed to be instead of working its way into the earth. And as I just mentioned, the next step was getting gravel loaded in. Buying it in bulk is always gonna be your best option. We only paid about $60 for all of this gravel, putting it in place. It did take a lot of work also, once again, to get all this shoveled off of our truck, but we did have the whole family once again involved helping out. After getting all the gravel in place, the next step was getting everything level once again, and also just compacting the gravel so it is a nice kind of more smooth as it can be flat surface. And then we finally had ourselves a completed gravel pad. It took a lot of manpower, the whole family involved, but I think we pretty much now have this completely leveled out, completely flat, ready to go so we can put a shed now on top of this. I promise I didn't just wear the white shirt so you could see how hard I was working. We are so close to getting this done. We've actually had this shed for longer than we'd like to admit. I've been holding off to it, but now we can finally get ready to possibly put a shed on this either this weekend or maybe we'll hold off a little longer and wait a week. But while this is done here, we shouldn't wait a week. We should keep working. Starting the true work now of opening this shed from Patio Well. We ordered our shed with a floor base, which we thought was actually gonna be like a floor, but it was more like a foundation for your floor, which we felt at the time was a little misleading and we wish we would have looked into it a little better. Assuming there was gonna be a floor, that added some more work for us in the future working on this shed. But the startup of this and using the instructions, although the instructions could have been a little better, it wasn't necessarily hard work, it's tedious work and there's just a lot of steps. There's a lot of pieces that are involved in this. We had to put up a lot of sides, a lot of screwing, and it is definitely helpful to have more than one person out working on this shed, because if you do it by yourself, it is going to take you a very long time. So Chelsea and me were both out here getting a lot of this done throughout this whole entire process. All right, this has been a huge family project, but as you can see, kind of, that we got a floor, that's all done now. That was something that we were kind of worried about how it was gonna end up turning out. We got a lot of all the sidings and the walls on, which this metal, it is a little thin, but it's not something that we're gonna live in. But it does make me wonder how it's gonna hold up over time. But for the most part, it is still pretty sturdy for being a thinner kind of metal. It's a little shorter than what I thought, but that's something we could have looked up also, obviously, before getting it and knowing. I still think it's gonna be everything that we're gonna want for this. We just need to make sure we have another spot that we can help kind of store some stuff. And this, I hope, will kind of be like the homesteading shed, which will be very organized in the sense of getting our gardening, our chicken, animal care items, or any kind of projects and tools. That's what this shed's purpose is gonna be. We got a little bit more building to do, as you can see. It says 2 to 3 hours for about 2 people, and it's took us longer than that. So we're obviously not equipped as what those directions say. But we're gonna keep moving because I think we're getting close to the end. I can see it and I can smell it. You know when you get that feeling of like, oh, like you can start picturing everything. So this last piece right here is gonna be fun because this is how much room we have in between these 2 sheds. So I'm gonna have to get down on my knees, get a little dirty here to get these last screws in for this one. I guess it'll make for good video. Day 4, maybe day 3, I'm forgetting what it is, but guys, we're on the very last piece of roof. I can start to now see the whole thing coming together, and I'm happy that it's about to be done. Let's put this last piece on. We finally have a complete shed. Every single piece is now complete for the shed kit, and I want to talk to you guys about how it went over these 3-4 days working on this shed. But before I do that, there is one thing that we want to do that it's not a part of the shed, but it is something that's important, and we want to make sure that this is as high quality as we can make it. Especially while it's here and now, which we have vinyl plank flooring that we have left over from when we did house renovations in our house. We had a lot of these boxes that, just in case pieces chip or we need to fix anything, and they've just been sitting in our front shed. So this is a perfect use for them, trying to repurpose them to make this floor more solid, and I cannot wait to put it all in to see how this is gonna look. I think it's gonna look really nice, and I think it's gonna be really nice for the shed, so that we can just cover up this whole subfloor of plywood, and I think it's gonna just give that finishing touch to this shed before we fill it up and organize it all. And I think it's just gonna make it look just a little bit fancier and nicer.
Whoa! Okay. Put the puppy back in its house area.
So now, after days and days of coming out here and working on this shed, and admittedly, this company, Patio Well, actually sent us this shed months ago. We've had it left outside in boxes. And honestly, it's just come down to just being busy with other things, a little bit of laziness on my part of coming out here and wanting to get this done, knowing that we had to work on a foundation and everything that just went into it all. And sheds are no easy concept by any means. Obviously, having a kit makes it a little easier that you don't got to build from scratch, but even this, I'll admit, with the patio well, the instructions, although they were clear-ish, I feel like instructions always can be a little more clear. And now all this being together and seeing it, I was really worried about like the durability of this metal. It's pretty thin. It's not like the most thick at all here on the roof or the sides, but it comes with plenty and plenty of screws. I'll try to give you a view here. I think just alone on the roof itself is probably about 180 screws. And then you can see there's a whole bunch right in here. All these side pieces. So throughout the outside, probably another 100 plus screws. All in all, there's probably about 500 screws for this project that you are putting together to build this whole shed. And once all those are in, you can really feel the durability of everything with it all. That's what it needed, because like I said, the metal seems to be a little thin, but I think with all the screws, it makes me feel a little more safe about it all. And it makes me feel like it's definitely more secure than what I thought it was gonna be. going inside the shed now, and this was the main reason for having it, is we wanted to start being able to store things a little neater, which you can see here with a mixture of tools, chicken stuff that we need to have stored here so that we can go out and use that more. And as you can see, I'm kind of hunched over a little bit. I'll try to stand. Right here I'm standing all the way straight up. But this shed, one thing that I kind of dislike is it is very short. I'm probably a little over 6 foot tall, and my head hits probably right at this center beam right here. So it's probably just about like 6.5 at the peak, maybe. And then it starts to get lower and lower as it gets down to the sides, as I really have to bend down here. I don't know if you can kind of see my knee here. So this shed definitely could be taller in height, but 10 by 10 inside, which even that, I think it's probably about 9.5 by 9.5 for like usable inside space. But this is gonna store everything that we wanted, plus a little extra, so we're happy about that. I mean, generators, we have chicken stuff here, we have different mix of like random tools and outdoor stuff that we use. This is a lot of just like my tools that I have right there. Overall, like I said, the space inside it though is exactly what we were looking for back here. I mean, you can look inside and you can see there is still much more space to be used. I'm trying not to use it all. I would like a big opening in the middle so that we can actually access everything and easily walk in there. I know over time that will change because you start just loading it with more and more stuff. Trying not to do it. So now what we can do though is all these extra pieces of wood from like this project, and then as I started the video and I explained, extra stuff which it's a little worse than where this video when it first started, because we took stuff out of this shed that we put into that one. So now just kind of organizing stuff around, but this, instead of having things just outside and all over the place, we can start picking this stuff up, getting it into that shed. And this is why I think it is so helpful that if you're looking for a certain shed, this one, if you do like, I think I do recommend, other than I think the instructions could have been a little better on it. And I think that I am not crazy about the different options for a floor. I think that the floor was a little misleading for the spacings of everything and what I thought I was gonna have for it. But now being able to use our vinyl plank flooring that we have inside it, overall, I'm super excited about it now. I think that if you're looking for an option and you like the metal over like plastic sheds, then I would go with this one. But even on their site, they have a whole bunch of different options and a bunch of different looks. This is the 10 by 10 one, which I guess I can close the door if you really want to see, but they have different ways to lock it up. They have this right here so that you can lock it into the door so it's not going to blow away. And then it has the latch across here, and then you can put your own lock in it so that you can make sure it's even more secure. So if you have it in a spot that you feel like you're afraid that someone might get into it or anything like that. Overall, on my scale, I'd give this thing about a 7.5 probably out of 10. If you're looking to build this and get this for yourself, I would say to make sure that you have a whole day planned out. It might not take as many days as it took us. We have other things going on, but if you space out one day to really work on it and get it completely done, I think that you'd get it done in about 4 hours. Probably makes more sense to me, 4 to 5 hours than 2 to 3 hours. So if you're interested, go check it out. Go to patiowell.com. Look at all the different options that you can choose from. And I'm telling you guys, you probably won't be disappointed. You might get a little frustrated during the building process, but I think that's probably true with most building projects, especially bigger ones like a shed. So behind the shed, there is some space here. I definitely don't want stuff growing back here and then I have to manage and figure out what's going on. So I figured for a storage idea, I have this weed barrier from putting it underneath to this one right here. Put a weed barrier down. I'll probably double up on the weed barrier, and then I have a lot of leftover fencings from projects and things like this. I'll wrap them up as tight as they can be and hopefully store them right here behind the shed so that if I need to get them or anything, they're in one certain spot. I thought about storing them inside the shed, but I think that that would be too much inside the shed and then it'd be hard to maneuver around. So I believe this will be the best technique in order to try to get all these pieces of fencing in a nice little spot. Well, now what was a huge mess here, as you can see, has all been cleared up. We have all the fencing pieces here behind this shed, which I can go access to whenever I need now. Everything, all the spare wood that I have. I think all the kids are playing in here right now. Yep. All the spare wood now I can have up here, which I probably have a few more pieces that I need to look around for. All right, here you guys go. That's all easy storage. Now I can find it when I need it instead of having to look around and be like, oh, where's that 2x4? Or do I have any plywood? That shed is an absolute game changer for our property. It's been something that we've been needing. We don't have a garage here. We don't have a basement. So this is actually our third shed on our property. And it was something that was just a necessity. The other shed was getting crazy packed, just kind of hard to manage through. This, since we could start fresh, nice and easy, it's gonna be something that we're gonna absolutely love. I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you want to, go to patiowell.com and get yourself a shed today. Have a great day and a better tomorrow, and God bless you guys, everybody.